What can you share with our viewers about how to know whether you're ready to find love again and if the person that you're meeting is ready?
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for tuning back into Second Act TV. I want to thank April Beyer for staying over for another segment talking love and relationships after 50 from the matchmaking perspective. April, thanks so much for joining me again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Silka.
Well, we will link to our last segment where April, who is, well, she's been a very successful matchmaker for over 20 years, and she's the founder of Level Connections, which is a company that has really addressed the frustrations that people experience with online dating and that whole dating scene. What I'd like to talk about in this segment, and we briefly touched on it in the last one, is all these avenues are great, be it online, whatever, but nothing really works unless you're ready to find love again. What can you share with our viewers about how to know whether you're ready and if the person that you're meeting is ready?
Great question. Great question. You know, the problem with dating apps is they're not designed necessarily to get you into a relationship. They're designed to keep you in the app. And what happens is people are very triggered emotionally by those dating apps. And then they all of a sudden start to question their own readiness. And then it's very difficult to see the readiness of others because they don't have deep filters. They only have parameters. And because it's an easy onboard, what is it, like a 3-minute download of an app, 2-minute build a quickie profile, pretty much the doors are open to anyone and everyone who thinks they're ready to find love. And the common misconception of the dating app is if this person is there, if they've swiped on me, that means they want me, that means they're ready. And nothing could be further from the truth. So to me, readiness is a sense of calm and looking at dating as an opportunity to connect. Mm-hmm. It isn't so much about I'm ready, so therefore I'm going to have laser focus on finding the one. When you are trying to find the one, you end up finding no one. And I'll explain that. To me, the best way to find love and to get ready for it is to think about dating as I am simply out there connecting. Mm-hmm. And you would think that that means that you're not as efficient or focused, but when you take that focus off of your search and you just enjoy meeting people and you can come home after a date or whether it's in person or a Zoom date and you can say, you know what, that person wasn't for me, but that was an hour well spent, or that 3 weeks that we were getting to know each other, that was lovely. I learned about that person. I learned about myself. And everything that you need to know about readiness of another partner is in the first several dates, if you're looking in the right way. But readiness is also not just ignoring your past. If you're coming out of a divorce or you've lost a partner, it doesn't mean that you're pain-free. It mostly means that you have a handle on it, that you can tell your story with ease and with grace, and that you're not mired in it, right? Love isn't for the pain-free. Love isn't for the perfect. We're all having experiences, and our past relationships are what I call like the tapestry of our life. So you want to bring your relationship history to the table, not your pain about it, not your story about it, but your relationship experience and your wisdom. So when you feel like, hey, I have a lot of self-responsibility, I can take responsibility for my choices, my actions, I'm no longer a victim. Nobody did anything to me, regardless of what happened in your relationship. And you feel like dating is an opportunity and you don't have fear and trepidation and a high level of nerves, you're probably ready. And it's those people who have that ease are the ones that are the quickest to the table for relationship.
Interesting.
They look at relationship and dating differently than those people who are like gripping on to the outcome of a date.
Yeah. Give us an example, maybe. It's something somebody can identify with. Like, I know you said, I believe it was in the last segment, maybe I read it somewhere when I was reading up on you, but that most people advise not to talk about your past relationships, especially on the first date or something, or your ex, well, your divorce. Yeah. But you say no. What do you mean by that?
Because telling telling anyone, a man or a woman, to not talk about something that was a big event in their life is asking them to have disingenuous behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And when you aren't authentic, you're not in the moment. And when you're not in the moment, you're not that appealing and you're not relatable. So it's not talking about your ex that's the bad thing. It's the length of time you're talking about it and how you're speaking about it. For example, if I'm going to be on a date and I'm going to use 20 to 30 to 45 valuable minutes of that 1 to 2 hour date speaking about somebody that isn't at that table, I am now missing out on my ability to connect with the person sitting across from me. I'm talking about somebody that's not there, which now removes that person from me. So if you can encapsulate your experience, for example, there's a difference between my ex, we've been through this really traumatic divorce and there was a lot of chaos and this happened with things and he said, she said, and you're getting into all of the minutia and the story, or what we call the weeds of your story, as opposed to, thank you so much for asking me. I'm now been divorced for 5 years. We went our separate ways. I learned who this person was. And at the end of the day, this was not the kind of person I could continue to live my life with. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, my kids had some challenge during that period of time, but I've come out the other side. And I'm so glad you asked. Tell me now about you. See how I'm sharing sort of the highlights, the cliff notes. I'm not avoiding. I'm not distracting. Or it's like politics, right? You can talk about politics, you just can't argue about politics. You can talk about past relationships, but you've got to do this in a way that's audience based. If you're talking for 10, 15, 20 minutes and you haven't come up for air, you are not on that date. So it really doesn't matter what people are talking about. And I don't think there's any topic that should be off the table.
Yeah. So that's a big red flag then.
Yeah.
Both for yourself, if you catch yourself doing it, or if the other person is doing it. Any other example that might hit home here for some of us listening?
Yes. I think it's people that are talking about what they don't want. So a lot of people feel, especially when it's their sort of second round of like, I'm going to now reinvent, I'm going to get back. And by the way, I don't like that phrase, get back out there. That fills me with dread and trepidation. Right? It should be, I'm going to like start meeting new people. I'm going to start connecting again. A lot of people feel, especially as we get older, we have busy schedules and busy careers, that there needs to be efficiency in the dating space. Meaning, if I get to that date and I tell that person what I'm not looking for and ask them the questions as a way of qualifying and vetting, you've also lost. You should be asking the questions because you care, because you're emotionally invested in the answer and you're able to build on those answers. But asking pre-qualifying questions not only pushes connection away, makes it impossible to be creating chemistry, but it's also inefficient in its own way because you're going to get a false positive. It's like going out and saying to somebody, now, are you looking to be married again? You clearly had a really, really difficult divorce. Would you be married again? Now you're asking somebody who doesn't have any foundation with you yet. He doesn't or she doesn't know you yet. So you might get a false positive. You might get, sure, I'd love to be married again. Or maybe in that moment that day, they're thinking, no way would I ever be married. So it doesn't help you to ask those questions. Are you okay with kids? Would you have them? Would you move? In my career as a 20-year matchmaker, Silka, I got to tell you, I have seen the impossible happen. I have seen miracles happen with people telling me one thing. I went ahead and matched them anyway, and suddenly their lives are changing. The people who said they would never move, the people who said they wouldn't have another child, the people who said they wouldn't be married again. And the reverse of that is I've seen people who said, I want to be married again, and they didn't mean it. And they didn't exhibit the behaviors that would lead to another marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe in I'm going to keep myself safe by making sure I ask you all these pre-qualifying questions in order to be efficient. If you're going to date again, you've got to put in the time. And that means get to that date, spend those few hours, get to know that person. Everything you need to know is pretty much right there for you. It's just not enough people ask the right questions.
Yeah. Well, can you give us an example of a right question versus a wrong? Because I know that on previous segments, and I agree 100%, list, throw out your list. That just works against you, as you just said, the expectations. And then if you look for, or if you talk about what you don't want, you ultimately create that. So I agree that you shouldn't focus on pre-qualifying, but then you do kind of have to qualify, but just not with interview questions, right?
Right, right. No, what the way I do it is I do it in a very loving way. It does require your patience. It does require your investment of your time. It does require an investment of your emotion. Because when you create a safe space for somebody to share with you that's very non-judgmental, what happens is you get the truth. You get all the data points, all those things you're looking for in order to be safe in your dating life, in order to make sure that your time isn't burnt on the wrong people. But to me, it's instead of saying, how long have you been divorced? It's what was that like for you? How have you been since?
Oh, I love that.
What do you miss the most about her or him? When you dive into someone's emotions, that is where the truth lies, not in the story and not in the length of time or where somebody has traveled, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's your own organic way of qualifying. And the good news is you have a good time, they have a good time. Everybody feels like they've just connected. And even if you might think at the end of that date, that person isn't for me, you've met a good friend, you've made a connection. And in my opinion, connection is everything. It's
Yeah.
everything. And it's created. It doesn't just happen. You actually create connection.
Yeah. Let's briefly touch on rejection
Mm.
because that is it's huge. Like when you say, even if it doesn't work out, you've made a good friend. You have, but there is some kind of reject. I mean, it's not going to work out. The intention of what the state was is to meet somebody is not there. How do you really deal with rejection and not take it personally?
Well, that's why we talk about how do you get ready?
Mm-hmm.
You get ready by understanding what is my core value? Like, what do I love about me? What do I know about me? If you wake me out of a dead sleep, what am I going to say about myself that I know through and through? That way, when you're out dating, you're not going to get kind of caught in the wind and under the wheel of somebody else's judgment or life or their rejection of you, if you will, because hey, I showed up. I was my best. I was my true authentic self. And if that person didn't respond to that, that's okay because there's someone for everyone. So you start with your own core confidence long before you get out there. Like building that confidence is everything. And the next thing is, you know, Silka, I've seen so many people, I'm a master at the post-date feedback, right? So every week I get to hear all the post-date feedback that come in from all of the dates we put together. And I've seen remarkable people get what we call rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, intelligent, successful, wonderful, loving, giving people have been rejected because a lot of people choose based on their own insecurities, based on their own limitations. They might go out with somebody and think, that person's a little much for me. I don't feel empowered when I'm with them. It has nothing to do with you. So that's why you want to take the focus off of you, put it out towards the other person. And if you swung the bat and you were authentic, it isn't rejection. You're giving, and when you reject people, a lot of people are very afraid to reject others because they don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
Right, exactly.
I look at it as I'm giving you a gift. I spent time with you. I'm going to thank you for that time. I'm going to say what a pleasure it was to know you. And then I'm going to tell you that I don't see us, right? I don't see us having that kind of connection going forward. But I'd love to know you in any capacity. You're not burning bridges, and it stings for about a day. And especially with men get what we call smartied for about 24 hours. And then the next day they're calling us and going, okay, who else? So it does hurt, but you have to remember that rejection is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
And if you sit in it for weeks and weeks and weeks, it's something about you, not about that person that you liked so much. Because I'm a big believer in no one who is right for you is going to reject you.
Yep. I totally agree. It's such a great topic, such a great topic. And I know on this channel, the comments, well, you deal with post-date feedback. I deal with comments, anonymous comments. Some of it
Yeah.
are very telling, and
Yeah.
it's just such a huge topic. But you just want to say, no, you're not ready. You're or don't you see what you're doing or what you're saying?
Yeah.
And we're getting close to the end, so about 4 minutes or so. What do you want to leave with our audience about being ready or noticing readiness in somebody else? Have we something we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, we haven't talked about how to recognize readiness in others. Readiness is not necessarily um, overall. It's not like an evergreen product. Readiness is ready for you. So instead of judging somebody and saying they're not ready, right? Because the way they're behaving,
Yeah.
it's very, very possible they're not ready for you personally. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You're not out to judge or teach people. And definitely never say to somebody, you're not ready.
Oh.
Because readiness is an internal feeling. Never say that, especially don't say that to a man. They don't want it. That's like saying like you can't, right? So it's not up to us to tell somebody else you're not ready,
Mm-hmm.
ever. But recognizing the readiness in others is I getting the mindset of I don't care if this person is overall ready. What I care about is, are they ready for me? Are they showing up for me in the way I want somebody to show up for me? Are they consistent? Do they want to talk to me in between dates? Are they asking me about the things that are most important to me, my family, my work, right? What are my values? And is this person engaging in those things?
Mm-hmm.
Is this person abundant in their time and space? Are they too busy? Are they too busy thinking about the past? Do they have the emotional space and the physical space for me in their life right now? What are they going through? If they're in a divorce, are they standing in the ashes of their life? If so, it might be something to put on the shelf for a later date and say, I need something more right now, so this person isn't ready for me personally, right? Because you can't make a blanket statement for all. So I think it's about emotional, physical space that is offered and what they invest in you. That's how you can tell if somebody is truly ready for you.
Wow, lots to think about.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
is.
it's relationship. It's important, it's the biggest part of our lives, and we put we think we're going to just add water, make life and relationship and marriage, and it's not that way. We invest more in our education, more in our businesses than we do in the education of ourselves and in our dating and personal life, and it is the thing that centers us, and it's what we live for, right? We live for connection and relationship. We need to honor it and give it more space and time.
Right, exactly. And,
Yeah.
again, I applaud you for working towards ridding or addressing, I should say, this frustration people feel with online. It just the whole industry just needs to change, and I know that you're on the forefront of that. So, I mean, we will link to all of your information, April. Tell our audience again, where can they get a hold of you, especially if they want to inquire more about the matchmaking or the services you provide?
Yes, you can go to levelconnections.com, or you can also find me and send me a message on Instagram at April Beyer.
Well, I have so enjoyed talking with you, April. I hope that you'll be back soon with lots more wisdom on this love and relationships after 50. So see you next time on Second Act TV.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. And if you have a topic that you'd like to have us cover, please visit our website, secondact.tv. We have a little red suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on that, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.